Hello, everybody. So I have an interesting circumstance, situation knife here that I wanted to share with you guys. When we first moved here, I had an order from a gentleman named Rob in Australia. Great guy to work with, very patient guy. We were having big delays with this move. This whole move to Virginia has delayed everything like consistently. But Rob was the first, I recall. And there was other delays, as will sometimes happen he ordered I believe it was a 240 extra tall, extra heavy. And it sometimes will happen on the Nitro-V knives that he had ordered. The tang snapped. This is actually the tang for Rob's knife, the first one. So I made him a second one. And generally what I'll do when the tang snap is I will make a shorter knife. A 240 will generally end up around 185, 190. So I can get enough tang in there depending on where it snapped and how it snapped. But this one was a little bit different because the blade sat around for a year, managed to find its way behind my cutting board back there. I played around with it, messed with the geometry some, and did experiments and stuff. And generally, I'll make them into standard geometry knives or, the like, depending on what I decide to do with it. And then I'll resell them. They're still new. They're just reground tang. This one, though, when I dug it out from behind my cutting board a year later, it had a couple rust spots, and I put it away again. And finally, this weekend, I decided to dig it out and finish a knife out of it. So I reprofiled it. It ended up 185. This is the knife, 185 millimeters. It was beautiful, perfect. I just polished it out again. And the rust spots wouldn't go away. Left tiny, tiny pits. And I was actually shocked at the depth. But the knife cut beautifully. So I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to redo the entire grind with water stones like I would do on a sword. And redo the whole thing, redo the polish, every millimeter of it, every square millimeter, with water stones. Bring the edge in perfectly, like every millimeter reground perfectly. It took me 2 days. I went through 5 stones that way, all synthetics, but except for the final run was synthetic slurry on a natural stone. But I finished it, and it is phenomenal cutter. The problem is the rust spots didn't go away. The little tiny pits. Some of them are even white. They're so thin, and I couldn't go any further. This is the ultimate ultra laser that I've ever done, and it is amazing through food. It hasn't been sharpened. It has no primary bevel. You can see the light never hits a primary bevel. It's literally just the edge. I stropped it with felt to make sure there was no tiny little pieces of metal. There's no burr or anything like that, because even polishing with stones will leave a burr, as anybody who sharpens knows. So this thing is completely hand ground on water stones, and it cuts just ridiculously well. So you can see how thin that is. And more importantly is it doesn't steer. If you do your part, you get a knife that cuts just perfectly straight. So, I mean, those weren't for thinness. These are thinness. Those were to show how it doesn't steer. But anyway, it's dead silent through potatoes. And I'm barely holding this knife. It's just loose fit into the handle. That's what the rattling you hear is. It's just pressure put into there. So I had something so it looked a little better. This handle will actually go with it if I sell it, which I don't know. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to. I want feedback on the knife, and I actually want someone to own it. It isn't something that I do very often, and to keep it here or just send it out as a demo. First of all, the edge is beyond thin. So this is not, can you see that? And it's perfect all the way down like that, beyond thin. So this is not, that's why I do that this way, by the way, is so that if it does slip, it slips up and it can't cut me. But this isn't an amateur's knife. This isn't a knife that the person that's brand new to kitchen knife should probably buy, or brand new to expensive high-end customs should even probably buy, unless they're aware of what a thin edge like that on a 63 Rockwell knife. It's going to be durable, but it's not going to be something that you don't care. You have to be aware of this edge every time you cut something. You know, you slice it into a chicken, that's great. It'll break down chicken to some degree. I put it through chicken. I broke down a chicken with it. It'll slide through the knuckles, but you cannot torque it. You cannot twist it. You cannot in any way, you can't slide into the ribs and then lift, because you'll lock that edge into the bones, and that's it. But the knife is definitely a performer, and I want the feedback on it, and I want someone to have it. So that said, the stone polishing, that was my choice. I'm not going to charge you guys for it. You know, that was my decision to do that. I will absolutely appreciate the feedback on the knife. I will let this handle go with it. That's Damascus in the spacer. I felt, even though it's a stainless knife, I felt it deserved something special in the handle. This is actually the handle I had put on my knife, and I'm happy enough with this thing that I'm going to let this handle go with it. It came right off of, the wood came right off of my driveway. Stabilized silver poplar in Damascus. But so I will decide on a price by the time I post this video. I will have a number. This knife would normally be around $12.50 with this handle and everything else, but with those tiny little pits and some other things, I'll come up with a number. Actually, I'll come up with a number right now for my Instagram, and I'm not putting this on the website. For my Instagram, YouTube followers, if you go to the website, there's a contact email. It's actually Chris, CRIS, at cjaedgedart.com. If you would like this knife, send me a message. You have to watch the YouTube video, because I need you to know about the edge, and I need you to know why it's so special, and I can't write that all down. But I will sell it to somebody on my email. So if you message me through email, I will sell this knife for $1,050 plus shipping. It is as good or better than anything I have ever made. And those spots are not, they're pure visual, barely pure visual, but because of them, I made a very, very special knife. So I guess it's kind of poetic that I left them in there. But yeah, I will post this on Instagram with a link to the YouTube. I will post this on my Facebook with a link to the YouTube. I will not sell the knife unless you have watched the YouTube video. Let me know what you guys think.